welcoming everyone to this very special panel on software-defined vehicle or SDVs. SDVs are fast becoming the center of the future of mobility itself. They define how we experience the car, their performance, and their safety. And joining me on this roundtable are distinguished panelists who bring a wealth of perspective. Mr. Uday Narang, founder of Omega Seki Mobility, Mr. Shresth Mishra, co-founder of Simple Energy, Dr. Achal Jain, CEO, PMI Electromobility, Mr. Arun Kapoor, head of battery business, JBM, Mr. Raj Kiran, senior regional director, enterprise direct business at PTC, and Mr. Arun Malhotra, respected auto industry veteran. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. Dr. Achal, let me start with you first. First of all, let's set the context of EVs. EVs are very much at the core of SDVs. How is Indian EV bus manufacturing and demand growing in India, especially in the bus segment?
So, thank you for having us and organizing this panel discussion. So, firstly, we always like to call our EVs as a computer on wheels. So, when you are putting the context of having a software SDV or a software developed vehicle, so that is where exactly EVs are. I'll tell you a story. So, we have our buses running in Shimla, okay? And we generally go around the cities where our buses are running and take feedback. And we heard a story of where somebody told us that I will wait 30 minutes, but I will go back home in an EV bus after a long day of work, and I will not take the traditional diesel bus. And I said, 30 minutes is a long time. Why will you do that? She said, it is comfortable. It is quiet. I can listen to music. There is air conditioning in it. So for me, whatever tiredness I have had during the day, it will get resolved by the time I reach home. So this is a very, while it might seem ki theek hai, simple sa anecdote hai, it reflects a movement. It's a movement of development. And that is what the electric bus movement in the country has been. It's a uplifting of the infrastructure and the way people commute. So I'll give you another anecdote. I was once in a panel like this, okay? And somebody asked me that, oh, your buses have air conditioning. Then how are they green? I said, sir, aap aaj aaye ho idhar, aap AC gaadi mein aaye ho? He said, yes, obviously it's so hot. So I said, aapko AC deserve hai, so the person who's, using the public transport also deserves it. So here, again, the point, when we've developed these electric vehicles and specifically electric buses, it has just not been a go green movement. It has been a upgradation of technology. It has been an upgradation of the way people commute. And it has also been a sort of equalizing factor in terms of the facilities one deserves in a private vehicle, also one deserves in a public vehicle. Yeah. And therefore, the electric buses in the country are all air-conditioned. They have CCTV cameras. They are extremely comfortable and quiet. In fact, sometimes they are so quiet that we have to install machines to create some noise. Otherwise, it's too spooky. Yeah. They have tracking in real time. So all your apps, they can track a bus, where it is, and so on. And, they are, just because of the way the engineering is also, it's a very super comfortable ride that we are looking at. Now, the electric buses in India came around 2016, 2017, roughly. That is where this movement kicked off. And today, while the numbers might still not be what we would have hoped for, we still say it has been a success because we've made a mark. We've made a mark and we've proven that this is a technology to stay and this is a technology to grow to the extent that we, some of the cities are going to get completely electrified. For example, we are sitting here in Delhi. Delhi will be completely electrified in the years in the coming years, and we are very close to that goal. So, again, just to go back to the question on how the EV ecosystem has evolved in the country, it has evolved in a manner that somebody that, a company like mine, PMI, which was a small company in 2017, has become the first OEM to deliver 1,000 buses in the country. It is registered the most number of electric buses in the country till in this calendar year. And it has allowed me the opportunity to grow and come to the level we are while also serving the nation in the manner which we want to. When we think of electric buses, we don't only think of making an electric vehicle and driving it on the road. We think of three things actually. We think of sustainability, which is obviously, it's a green movement, so it is sustainable. We think of gender equality, because we have one plant that's a completely women-run plant. We have drivers in Delhi which are women, and obviously I am a woman. That's been a center focus for us. And third has been a reduction in rural-urban divide. So that is why I'm saying, because we have our initial fleets did not run in the big cities of Delhi's or Bombay's, and still our initial fleet ran in the Rajkots and the Shimla's, Leh.
Oh, that's very interesting, and I would like to explore that a little bit more. But I will now bring in Shresh. Shresh, this term SDV gets thrown about a lot. What does it mean for you, and how are you guys approaching? You have a big portfolio of two-wheelers. How are you approaching software, and how does your interaction with software define your plans for the future?
So as ma'am was telling, that vehicles are like computer on wheels, right? So R is a two-wheeler, so I would say a smartphone on wheels, right? So what we've done, we've tried to build something value proposition wise. Of course, the customer wants something to be upgraded. Whenever you're trying to, let's say, buy another phone, you would want something which is equivalent or at least better than what you have currently. And that is what we are trying to do in terms of value propositions for the customers. So, of course, taking from one place to the another is one part of it, and that's the most crucial and critical part of it. At the same time, making it more customized, right? When we talk about, I put vehicle on charging, so I know that how much percentage is charged, where my vehicle is, tracking it. Probably if I give my vehicle to somebody else, I can track that what is the speed, what kind of usage he is doing. So all of that features that we can give to the customers is basically because of softwares. And if let's say a two-wheeler is used for a life cycle of 5 to 8 years, probably you can keep on upgrading, keep on adding more features. So it's like you are buying a smartphone, you're getting update regularly. So new features, for example, regenerative braking, multiple levels of regenerative braking can be done. More modes can be introduced to the scooter, probably more features, more range. All of that can be done just by a small little upgrade. Just like your phone, it's a smart touchscreen, 7-inch touchscreen that is there on the scooter. So it's as good as your phone. You have maps integrated, all of that. So the customer is looking at it, but at the same time, we have to look at it, what's the kind of cost that he has to pay. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the cost. So we have to understand the requirement, whatever feature that we are giving, it is being utilized at least by 90%, 95% of the customers. Then only it makes sense. Because at the end of the day, whatever feature that I am implementing onto the product, it would be amortized over the X number of customers that would be buying that particular product. So it's a mix of both, that looking onto the features that we would want to give as much as possible because the customer also wants it, but at the same time looking at the cost of it and how much we can optimize it further. So that's the whole goal, what we are looking at in terms of softwares for the vehicles.
Mr. Kapoor, you specifically focus on batteries. So where does this marriage between battery management and vehicle, and how crucial is the role of software in that?
So if we talk about EV systems, so whether it's a bus or it's a truck, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, now battery forms the core. It's an engine, it forms the core of the complete EV drive, and so it gets charged and provides energy. Now this core has to be, I would say, harnessed well. So there are two ways, and softwares, they ensure that. So ultimately, integrating a battery with a brain, which is called battery management system, and the whole neural network is like, body nerves. So you got a human brain, you got a body which is a battery, and battery actually behaves like that. So if you don't manage the battery, then that's a problem. Now, this battery controls almost 90% functions of a electric vehicle system. The high HVL interlock, the safety interlock, the energy distribution, overcharging, undercharging, I will not take very complicated words, but fundamentally it's an interplay between the software, the hardware, so the semiconductor technology which is coming in, the control strategy, safety, and the vehicle. So software does three fundamental, so there are three pillars of any EV ecosystem or the battery system. One is safety, second is the performance, and third is the total cost of ownership.
Yeah.
Because a battery has to give a high performance life. And everybody sees a value. So today, if somebody buys a passenger vehicle, he sees today that as an asset in India and everywhere in the world. But today, if somebody buys a scooter, I'm talking scooter, or there are many, many small scooties and scooter or last mile connectivity things. They keep it as, oh, I got a product, it has to be very cost effective. So that's where he came with a lot of feature driven product. So software becomes again a ever evolving system in a EV battery, not only battery, EV ecology system, EV vehicles. And this brings a very, very interesting phase into the control strategy, that when you manage these vehicles over a long time, you manage their health, you manage their performance, you manage their upgrades, and all this has to be in a very secure environment. Going back to a movie which came, if you remember, I can just draw a parallel, not to scare anybody, but let me tell you that if these batteries are not tamed well, if these software-driven vehicles are not controlled, and we do not have typical 155, 156 cybersecurity standards built in, we have a serious problem. So software has to be controlled, monitored, managed, and ensure that it does not fall in wrong hands.
True.
So this is the power of a software.
True, it's a power and also challenge of the software.
Challenge of the
Mr. Kapoor said something very interesting, that battery is at the heart of an EV. You remember, Mr. Arun, that we used to say that engine is at the heart of the vehicle. So we have come a long way from that. But how do you see software impacting the industry? From your experience, what are the things that you think that stand out in current context in terms of software and hardware coming together?
So, conventional vehicles had more hardware.
Yeah.
When we started our engineering, it used to be mechanical. Then came electronics, then came mechatronics, then came software. And now we're moving totally to software. So the potential is huge. And I would say that when we say these SDVs is only for electric, I think we are not doing justice to it, because the potential of SDV is much beyond. Whether we like it or not today, the penetration of EVs is still limited.
Yeah.
And I would say the adoption will become better if these technologies, SDV, is used for other vehicles, whether it's hybrid or the conventional vehicles. So this is something which is unique. And I think what is important, what's not happening, is how do I get to explain to potential customers the benefit in a very simple, illustrative method? Why do people remember Mahabharata? Or why do people remember Salim Javed dialogues? Because they're very simple, clear benefit. I think that is something we can sometimes get lost in too much technology.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as EV is concerned, it's a reincarnation, it's a rebirth, it is a renaissance. But how can we use it? The other thing which I would like to say, all people who are fascinated by this and passionate on this, one thing they must have to see, they have to think like the devil's advocate. If I have to say that something is not happening, what it is? And the two R's I'll come to is the reassurance and reliability.
Yeah.
These are questions which are in people's mind. Now, some of these questions may not be logical, but the point is, as long as the myths are there, questions are there, somewhat we need to do. Cybersecurity, as you mentioned, that's a clear indication, clear part of it. And then we also have whether the infrastructure is supporting it. SDV has got phenomenal potential, but do our traffic, do our other conditions, do they support it? But I think the benefit is really in commercial application. Look at SDVs in terms of mining, remote areas. There's something phenomenal potential. So I think we are still sitting on the tip of the proverbial iceberg. But I think what needs to be done is to look at from the other side, what are the showstoppers? Not in the fashion language, but showstoppers in this, and see how we can explode these myths, or sometimes if they're real problems, how do you resolve them? Potential is huge, but I think it has to become mainstream. It can't remain only electric. It has to be the hybrid, it has to be the CNG, because even normal vehicles are having a lot of software. So I know it's a more challenging task because there you have to start with software and hardware combining, but that's the journey we need to take to make it successful.
Raj Kiran, now I want to understand what you have internationally also. PTC has been doing a lot of work in PLM and ALM as well. What are some challenges that you think are unique to India? And how do you see the software-defined vehicles defining Indian mobility?
Right. I think a lot of good points made by my co-panelists so far, and I'm privileged to be on this panel. We've been in the business for 40 years, and we've been, like you said, providing software to back up the electromechanical development, which is done by the automotives for 40 years now. PLM's been at the heart of it. Why? Because it was fundamentally hardware in the past, right? That's the big change that's happening. And India is in the center of it now, with being the software engineering hub of the world. One of the big challenges is our large companies are thinking hardware first. They've been thinking hardware first and then force-fitting software into the development cycle, which is not exactly in line with how software-defined vehicles need to be looked at. I think it's a fundamental redefinition of the way engineering should be done, which is looking at software platforms first and then connecting the distributed ECUs and redefining the ECUs as well within a vehicle, and then ensuring that they're all done well together, right? Now, India, I think by a lot of studies, the number of variants that the Indian market needs is actually one of the highest in the world. Everybody likes to have, because of the vastness of India, the terrains, the climate, diversity, etc. There's so many different kinds of vehicles you need. That's one of the top complexities. That added on with the fact that the vehicle itself is becoming so complex with hardware, software, and the way engineering departments are dealing with this massive change, which is earlier the thousands of people that have been hired by the big names in India have now got to hire software engineers, and they need to collaborate well together. Today, still, software engineering is considered a separate discipline, and the life cycle of it is managed separately. Now, they've got to combine them. And that's one of the other big challenges when you've got so many big software teams that are being hired. Now, India is in a very good position, like I said, with a lot of German, Western automotive manufacturers building their offshore and development hubs in India. And I think what PTC is doing is enabling them. They are building the vehicles, the cars, the bikes, the buses, etc. And we are doing the support role to make it easy for them to do what they're doing best. So that's where PTC comes in.
Dr. Rachna, Anshul, I wanted to ask you, have you seen in any aspect of either manufacturing or consumer experience where software has helped your ultimate consumer?
So definitely, firstly, since it's a software-driven vehicle, so the fact that we have these electric vehicles which are of superior nature is an immediate way how the consumers have been helped. But the other aspects through which in these vehicles where software is helping is a continuous tracking. While, in the later stages of ICE vehicles, we started seeing GPS integration, but it wasn't in a full form. Now, in all public buses that are electric, they are always integrated both in control centers of the authorities, of the STUs, of the OEMs, of the operators, and so on. The other thing is, in fact, a lot of our buses, I can monitor on my mobile phone and see where that bus is, how it is performing, what is the efficiency of that, is it doing what it's supposed to do, and so on. So all that got enabled because of the software. The other thing is there is a lot of data that these buses are generating. Again, going back to the analogy, while we call it a vehicle, it's essentially a computer where there is a lot of learning that's going on. So every time the bus is running, we're getting a lot of data, and with all the fancy AI and machine learning stuff people do today, there's we can understand what's working, what's not working, and how we can improve upon. So ultimately, the product gets better, the consumer is
Benefits.
the one who will ultimately reap the benefits of it. So these are some, the other aspect has been also understanding and integrating with the charging ecosystem as well. So for now, like say every afternoon when the buses will go on its route, we can optimize our charging schedules as well, because that's also all controlled on through a software where the bus software is integrated with the charging software through one software. So we know which one to charge first, which one has to go on the longer route. So there are a lot of efficiencies that come about in that as well.
True.
So everything that was done sort of very manually through registers and papers has
Experiences.
now converted into softwares and learnings where you are more efficient in what you are doing.
Definitely reducing redundancies and also inefficiencies. Shresht, because you are clearly a consumer-oriented business, where have you seen consumer appreciating software?
So, as she was mentioning, I think majority of the things are same in the customer side as well. So, for example, if I want to see how much it is charged, that the example that I gave previously as well, I can optimize the charge in the way the charging happens. For example, if somebody wants to do overnight charging or probably fast charging, I can build custom charging algorithms based on the data that we get from the vehicles. It is because it is software defined, right? At the end of the day, and similarly, the kind of distance that people cover, that helps us define that what's the kind of performance that we can give. Because you have to make a blend of performance as well as the mileage into a product. That is what our philosophy has been since day one. And that is why the problem of the commute that we like to call that is very complex. So we have to build a simple solution. That is why the name simple came up, right? So a lot of features, for example, as a customer, I would want new UI UX. For example, I've brought a scooter.
Yeah.
I would want probably it to look a little better, probably 3 years down the lane or probably 2 years down the lane. So what I can do, I can set a UI update. So the scooter, how it looks completely different. It's a new product altogether. And all of that can be done through the just a click of an over-the-air update. So that is the kind of benefit that the customer gets. At the same time, the vehicle is not getting old. It's like wine, I would say. It's like aging in fine, really fine. So that's the kind of product that we've built. And I think that's the future for automobile will be. Not just, as sir was rightly saying, it's not just electric vehicles,
Yeah.
but on all the other vehicles that are there in the market and in the products that will be coming in future.
Mr. Kapoor, do you think software can also yield some cost benefit in manufacturing?
Yeah, so I'll give a slightly roundabout reply, but that background has to be, and PTC would really appreciate what I'm talking. So when we talk about data, Anchal said that we have got a lot of data coming and tons and petabytes of data is coming. In my particular case, we are generating almost 5 terabytes of data every day. And we are analyzing them. We have created digital twins. So my every battery or every vehicle has got a digital twin. When I say digital twin, it's not just to say, it's a clone. Yes, it's a digital model or a real-time virtual model we have created. Now, what does it do? And how it impacts? And how it helps in manufacturing? So when you get such a data, you start designing the vehicle based on the real conditions. So it's not only software, but we get a lot of insights about the mechanical systems, range, everything. And at that point, you can decide, hey guys, for this terrain and this market and this geography, you can reduce the weight, you can do some restructuring, you can do some changes in the air conditioning system. Now that comes from the insights of the battery, because battery tells this is the consumer. So compressor is a consumer, aircon is a consumer, braking system is a consumer. So these are all consumers of a battery. Now, when we start understanding this, how the battery behaves, what are the different parameters, then we start optimizing the manufacturing systems. Now, when you set up a gigafactory, we have a gigafactory, and I don't say I've been setting gigafactories multiple, but this gigafactory is a slightly different animal. Here, When you look at the performance, you really understand that when I'm going to do the testing of a battery, how this will behave. What are the risks involved in it? How I can reduce the charging, discharging time. How I can utilize that energy for recharging my battery systems. How the energy can be saved. Because these are energy guzzlers, frankly telling you. When you start manufacturing batteries, the air con system, the temperature control, the thermals, you have to start containing them from like it's a kid glove treatment.
Yeah.
You have to, it's a very robust product, very ruggedized product. IP67, IP68, but still, during the manufacturing process, these softwares help us. Now, how they help? Let's go to one step back. When a battery is made, we created a battery passport, like an Aadhaar card. Now, people are talking all this. We have already started doing it, which goes back, which takes data from the manufacturing execution system. Looking at the manufacturing execution system, we understand, I'm doing a laser welding here. How I optimize laser? How I reduce my rejections? What are the behaviors? How cells are being grouped? What type of DVs, delta voltage I'm seeing? What type of temperature profiles I'm seeing? Based on that, we are able to optimize not only manufacturing, but also product.
Yeah.
We can bring a lot of value engineering through manufacturing insights, through data analytics of the end product, and then roll them into a package and tell the design teams, hey, modify this, 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 this. So that's how, and the moment you start optimizing this, definitely it impacts the SQCD, safety, quality, cost, and ultimately delivery.
Mm-hmm.
This is all about the impact of software into manufacturing performance improvement.
Raj Kiran, how do you see software helping manufacturers be more cost effective? And there's one more aspect of it, which Shresh was mentioning in his earlier answer, where people have started using their vehicles almost as a gadget. So that means they also want much quicker updates, much quicker turnaround, putting pressure on manufacturers to innovate much faster. So how can software help in doing that?
Yeah, so to Shresh's point, it is really smartphone on wheels now. Okay, you can download an app, you can update the range, you can improve the range, you can enhance it, you can enhance a lot of features, you can do over-the-air updates to various aspects of your vehicle, etc. That's particularly interesting in the personal vehicle side of things, as it is a little bit for the commercial vehicle side as well. I think to the other point that you're asking about, which is manufacturing, right? It's not just going to make it cost efficient, it's also going to make it a lot more sustainable to the earth. Now, I'll tell you why. Prototyping typically involves releasing a few models into the market, you test it, and then you realize that a lot of it needs a lot of changes, and then you have to tweak it, you have to change the design, you have to come back and then make another version. You may not get it right then, and then you have to do it again. Typically 3 cycles, I understand, 3.2 cycles or something like that, of release before you actually release the best product in the market or the minimum viable product in the market. Now, that can be done virtually through simulation, through design simulations with software, right? And that is what requires a fundamental redefinition of the way engineers go about designing. Now, with the advent of generative AI, we've got something called generative designing as well, where the system will throw out recommendations for you for alternate materials and more sustainable materials, etc. So all of this has impact downstream. It starts in engineering, it starts in design and development, but the manufacturing gets better, and your service as well. Now, to get the service department to do the right thing, they need to understand what engineering is doing up front. Yeah. And engineering needs to understand if there is a persistent problem with a particular component inside the vehicle from the service department. Software also brings together all the departments within an organization for what we call closed loop feedback and closed loop quality. So I think there's no doubt that efficiencies improve, costs reduce, and the world becomes greener with a lot of software usage.
Mr. Arun, what is your view? you mentioned that you think software is also going to impact not just EVs but also traditional ICE vehicles as well and hybrids as well. But where do you think software can play a part in making sure that, as we generally are saying that, okay, people have started using their vehicles as gadgets, but that's not the idea. The idea is to have a sustainable model. So that means the vehicle that you produce today has to be future ready. So what is your view on that software can help in that and make sure that a product that's being made can last for another 6 to 8 years at least?
So, the technology exists. The challenge I see from a customer perspective is generally vehicles depreciate or disintegrate with time. And generally the feeling is, if you go to a financer, the depreciation rate is higher in an electric vehicle. One of the reasons is the residual value is lower. So it is seen as a faster depreciating asset. Now what is being said about software-developed vehicles is that you are actually trying to upgrade, add new features. You're trying to create an appreciating asset, an asset where it can appreciate. So that's something which has to be come out very, very clearly in a use case basis. You have to put customer at the center of thing. And if you have a proposition, first of all, how the proposition is demonstrated, differentiated, and then dramatized, then the real value comes out. And there must be hundreds of proponents, who should be speaking that language, ki, hey, I got this, but this has happened. Because there's still a lot of myths in people's mind. And I think with India being a software capital of the world, this is a great opportunity when we're getting into this China plus one issue. This is one field where we can master it, not only for domestic market, but foreign markets. Yeah. Otherwise, we are dependent on materials, this thing, Congo, this thing. So clearly the potential is huge. And the more broad-based you make it, when I say you make it beyond electric vehicles, is people will start seeing the benefit who are non-electric vehicle users also. So once they start using it, the benefit will flow more and more. So then it becomes, the ecosystem becomes much larger. I think two things which have to be clearly kept in mind is, one is we call of this transmission losses. That's a common word in electrical vehicles. And then is low utilization. Here it is the best utilization and there's no transmission loss. There is a transmission upgradation. So this is something which is looked into it. Potential is huge. But I think we are on an inflection point and there are still some myths, misconceptions. We need to take them head on and to answer them. That's going to be the real solution.
Okay. I just want to take everybody's view on cybersecurity, and because we spoke about data, data management and data protection as well. Arun, so how significant do you think that is? Because by the face of it, of course, it looks very significant.
If I read the newspapers today and I see JLR factory stopped somewhere or Pentagon cybersecurity attack, then I say, what is this, my vehicle? So what is the confidence I get? Somebody can externally, and when you see all these movies which are there, somebody takes control over. So somehow, how this cybersecurity, and Mr. mentioned, is how this cybersecurity is seen, and we don't have any law. Yeah. Today I was talking with SIAM, some people, that we still don't have a clarity of a law or a norm for cybersecurity in the auto industry. There are voices individual companies are doing. So we need to create that part of it, create some processes, systems, where this is the basic level of cybersecurity any vehicle will have. After that, you can always upgrade it. I think that's the need of the hour. Today, it's very functional based. We need more of a symphony in that, synchronizing all the effort. So the cybersecurity, which looks like the risk is very high, but how can we minimize the risk? And we can make it virtually minimum. That's what I think is important.
Dr. Rathod, your view on it. How significant do you think cybersecurity and data protection? Because as you were mentioning that you are getting a lot of data, but that data also needs to be protected, and that data also needs to be protected from your perspective and from the user perspective as well. So what's your view on that?
So, again, there is no two thoughts about that. It's a very important issue. You are generating tons and tons of data, both from the vehicle and also because you are using a software-driven system to drive a vehicle. So, as sir said, movies में आप देखते हो कोई attack हो गया, and people talk. There was an article somewhere, sometime, which said, imagine a visual where all the electric vehicles are stranded on the road.
Yeah.
Because there is a cyber attack and everyone's taken control of those softwares, and no electric vehicle can move except the ICE vehicles can still move, but none of these electric vehicles can move. So there was an article somewhere I read. So if one envisions that scenario, it's a very grave situation to imagine. So, again, I think all of us will conquer. There are no two thoughts about the fact that we have to work on this dimension. And it's a very, very important dimension because we've electrified and we've got these softwares, but things don't go haywire is something we all have to work on.
Shrestha, what's your view? How seriously does your company take cyber security and also data protection? Because you are actually dealing with direct people. And it's not that we have, of course, there are stories and there are movies around it, but now cyber attack and data protection is very, very real. As we were speaking about Jaguar suffered hugely because of that cyber attack. It's been almost a month that they have not been able to operate. So that's a huge loss to them. And then data protection in the sense, for example, I also want to mention one more thing. There are, if you go on YouTube, you will see people stealing other vehicles just by plugging into them through their laptops, breaching the key, the lock system of the vehicle. So how do you guys approach it? How does Simple Energy approach cyber security and data protection?
Yes, I think as my fellow panelists also said that you are getting a lot of data. So you have to make sure that data protection and at the same time privacy of the customers, because there's a riding profile also involved. Yeah. The places that he or she is taking his vehicle to is also there, right? So you have to make sure that all that information is stored in a very secure way, probably not on our premises, but on the cloud, wherever the data protection is already available. At the same time, we're trying to build something of our own in terms of data protection. For example, we have this feature where you can put on your documents, such as your driving license, your registration certificate, and other documents onto the vehicle. So it is 256-bit encryption. So probably we will also not be able to see what you have stored on that particular vehicle. And also, in addition to that, we are also trying to implement on our scooters edge computing so that you don't send every bit of data to our servers. Only the data which is most important and very critical to us, only we'll be getting it. And once the vehicle is getting to a service center or whenever there is an update happening, then only we'll be getting that data. In addition to that, we are also implementing our own ways of protecting the data, our data pipelines, be it from the Bluetooth connectivity of the phone to your scooter or the vehicle being connected to our servers through a 5G or 4G network. So that's definitely important. And as the technology develops, as the software is evolving, you have to make sure that the security measures are also evolving in parallel. And that is what we take very seriously in terms of our customers, be it customer data, be it vehicle data, because at the end of the day, the data that we are getting from our scooters is also helping us optimize, as Sir was talking about, optimizing your manufacturing operations, manufacturing practices, the design, the kind of algorithms that you're trying to send to the scooters to make it, as I said, that it has to keep on evolving over a period of time, even when it is sold to a customer, because it's not a commodity that you just sell and take your hands away. It's a product that will be used for a 5 or 8 or 10-year life cycle. So that's the kind of thing that we are doing. And as I said, that we are working on measures that as the technology evolves, as the software evolves, as more and more data is coming to us, we implement security measures to make sure that the data is secure from the customer side as well as from our servers as well.
Yeah. Raj, what do you think, where can a company like PTC come in to ensure cyber security and also data protection, which also includes keeping the data which is generated in the country, keeping that in the country, though there are laws around that at least, but still, it's a very big and serious topic.
Yeah. That last point you mentioned is around data residency within the country. I think, Mugdha, earlier you mentioned engine was known to be the heart of the vehicle. Now it's a software which is the heart of the vehicle. And when it's software that's the heart of anything, it becomes vulnerable. And with so much more software coming into not just cars, but different appliances, cameras to start with, etc., it becomes really vulnerable because it's written by people. There's so many millions of lines of code in most vehicles even today, even before the SDV revolution has kicked in. Now, there's two aspects of cybersecurity, right? One is, can your car be hacked, or your vehicle or your bus be hacked? And the other is whether your data center can be hacked, like you said, right? The data that you acquire of drivers, of manufacturers, can that be hacked? Now, on the second aspect, there's been plenty of work that's already done. There's encryption. It's been done for ages, right from when data centers became a reality, the IT stack. That's been done. That development will go on. That'll continue, right? The big thing is about making your vehicle more safe and secure from attacks. That has to be induced when the engineering is done to ensure that people are making sure that there's excellent code written and there are no bugs in the code. How can you make that extremely traceable in the software development lifecycle itself, where when you gather requirements and when you test and verify it? Are the requirements being catered to? Are there bugs being introduced? If there is a bug being introduced, how do you go back and trace when it was introduced, etc.? So I think PTC's got very good solutions in that space to ensure that manufacturers find it very easy to trace back bugs, to ensure there is lifecycle traceability, not just for software, but also hardware, to identify when a particular bug was introduced and then be compliant with various regulations of functional safety and cybersecurity standards. We make it easy, again. And those templates, those user interfaces are easy to use, and that's what we're doing.
Mr. Kapoor, Indian automobile manufacturing is also at a point where we have seen a lot of, we have covered a lot of ground in the last 5-7 years in terms of modernization, in terms of shift towards EVs. But globally, the competition is rising intense, and India has global aspirations. We want to be a global automobile player. How do you think software can help us? What are the challenges that we should be ready with?
Very, very, very penetrating question, I would say. Global ramifications. So, first of all, when I talk about what we are doing at our end, we are actually doing this now every day. I don't want to use the word we are attempting. We have, next month you are going to see our vehicle being launched in Europe. But you have to prepare for war for that. Now, what are the preparations? Cybersecurity is one thing. In European Union, the vehicle has to be ECR 100.03 certified. I'm giving a very specific number. R10, and then there are other standards in terms of how these software-driven vehicles are controlled. Now, I'll touch upon basically, so when you go to those markets, there are certifications for the telemetry. You have to certify them. They are CE-certified products. Product has to be fully compliant to the telemetry, to the regulations. Cyber hacking at software layer and at the physical layer, you have to comply. You have to ensure. When I talk physical layer, means you don't even give them a backdoor through a CAN network, how you can hide the wires and cables and ports. You don't even provide a port. They can't hack your CAN network. A physical layer I'm talking. Then in terms of safety, the compliances are very high. If you come into Europe or global markets, India is definitely inching towards it, and I think very soon we all will be, like in vehicle, there's a homologation, the global standards will also be homologated. So like CCS standard, charging infra standard, hacking from both the sides, complying to the European energy standards. So CUL are the standards which one has to ensure. Most of them are coming through IEC framework, right? So, and as we move forward, everything will, so this TS 16949, functional safety, in EV space, there's a very specific requirement which is called ASIL level C, SLC, SLD certifications. Now, if we don't understand those frameworks, you cannot go to those markets. Now, what is this SLC and SLD? SLC is again ABCD, SLD is also ABCD. There are 4 levels in each. And when you come to functional safety standard, which is 26262 standard, combined with R100, this ECR 100 standard, then you come to a product which is functionally stable, which is functionally safe, there's a reliability, ruggedness, and a guarantee of performance into it. When a customer is sitting in the vehicle, he should be feeling absolutely safe. Because one event and you are gone. And believe me, that's why the whole ecosystem has to work around. So the European Union framework, which is again evolving, we are again seeing a lot of evolution is happening. So I think in another 5 to 6 years' time, we will see more stability coming in. ADAS implementation, driver assist implementation, drowsiness implementation. There are different things we are talking about. So when a driver is driving on the highway and he dozes off, you see the accident. There's one more thing which is coming up is in the vehicles is, you have an accident, unfortunately. If you have an accident, we should have necessary safety so the battery is shut down. The high voltage system shuts down. Still that is on the works. And I won't say that it's SDV or the EV is also unsafe. You look at lot of passenger, the IC engines. We see them firing up like anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't want to mention any name or brand. So those are the things which are very, very crucial. Energy saving, sustainability. So I think as a part of the global network, as we are evolving, India and software, we will definitely play a very major role. Hardware-wise, we have to really catch up. Semiconductor is coming in a big way. Being a past semiconductor guy, I know what's happening here. So that is area we need to catch up from India, and I think Indian government is doing tremendous job. And our Indian engineers are doing tremendous job. We got Cadence here, we got VLSI guys here, we got embedded guys. There are people who are working on chipsets at 2 nanometer. So those are the things which will make India a very strong powerhouse to take us global.
Mr. Arun, I wanted to ask you the same question. Today, the need is that Indian manufacturing has to compete with global manufacturing. Right now, we still have a little bit of protection from one of the major markets, which is China. Those products are taking over the world. So how do you think software can help, and what all we should be doing and we should be preparing ourselves with so that we can be globally competitive?
So, one of the things is, what is our competitive advantage? If China has got certain competitive advantages in terms of their material, in terms of their development, the last 10 years they've taken over. Software is a unique proposition which we can take advantage of. Because if the vehicles are going to become software more and more, even the conventional vehicles, do we have a coordination, collaboration? There's industry one side, there's academia the other side, there are industry associations the third side, and there is government the other side. Do we have this collaboration? Do we have a Zubeen Mehta type symphony? Or are we working on different silos? I think the problem is, since this is a great opportunity, how do we collaborate? You may compete even, but how do we co-create, collaborate? That's going to be an important part. If we can do it, this can be the one big jump for India. Today, whether we like it or not, leave aside two-wheelers, limited markets of Africa. In cars, we sell 60,000 exports, which is nothing. Other vehicles also, not much to say. So we need to become global, and this is our time for becoming global. Software can take us to the next level. And we have the basic raw material, the basic manpower, or the basic technology. And these global capability centers which we have abundant now, which are not just about reducing costs, they are also for innovation. They should become the harbinger for change. That's the way I look at it.
How are you seeing software-defined vehicles? Because as EVs are evolving, software is taking center stage. So what's your view on that?
Well, absolutely. Software is absolutely as important to me as, whether it's the powertrain or the battery. I think today, we're working on, for example, autonomous vehicles, right? And I think that whether it is cars, buses, trucks, even three-wheelers, IoT, tracking devices, tracking for logistic players to see what is the utility of the vehicle, how do you enhance earnings. So for us, and technology, I was at the Bosch Center a month ago. If you look at that software, if the software that's being developed, GPS, telematics, looking at when the battery needs sort of support or needs, the maintenance. So for me, any OEM, whether it's EV, non-EV, and I think today's generation wants vehicles. If you see the new Mahindra vehicles, or if you see any new vehicles that are coming out, for me, software is extremely playing a key part. And as this grows, as the ecosystem grows, I think this is something, for me, a very, very important part of the journey. And I think what's more important is customers, the new generation, the generation, whether it's Generation Z or whatever, they want, if you don't have that in the vehicles, I think you're not going to be able to sell too many. So I think this is becoming just most important part of any vehicle, integration, and as any OEM to grow.
We were discussing the aspect of how consumers want change and they want more features, and one way of providing those features can also be over-the-air updates, and that also means that your product has to be future-proof, that you can give those over-the-air updates for longer time. How significant do you think OTAs are? How significant do you think, when you are planning your product, to make sure that those products are viable for next 5-8 years? Because that means that you have to preempt the software and preempt the features that consumers might want 5 years, 7 years down the line.
I think it's absolutely right. Over the air is going to be more important right now in passenger vehicles. I'm seeing that, the commercial vehicles will come a bit after. I think right now this is more critical, this is more important for the passenger side. But I think, as technology is moving, as you're seeing products come across the globe, this is going to be absolutely needed. I think that, it will give better customer service, it will give better product development, it will give you a complete enhancement of your vehicle as you go in the future. So for me, or any OEM as such, whether it is, a four-wheeler or a cargo or a passenger, I think over the air, it started with obviously Tesla and Elon, doing this. But I think, they say change with the time or time will change you. And I think this is going to be part of every OEM's journey. And for me, as we develop new products, whether it's 2, 3, 4, I think that this is going to be a very important part of anybody's portfolio.
When you approach manufacturing of your vehicle, do you find software helping you all the way from the beginning to the end? And in all this, when I say beginning to the end, is it helping you in making your cost lower? Or do you think there are a few challenges that software can solve and is not solving yet?
I think, it's a very good question, ma'am. I think, in England we say different horses for different courses. I think some of the products that have come in, I think they're overkill. If you have a two-wheeler, I'll give you an example, a 2 or 3 or 4. In a two-wheeler, some of the, technology, I spent a lot of time in the front lines of this country. I just came back for about a month's trip in Africa. Do I need to give that super duper technology in tier 2, 3, 4 cities? I think it's overkill. Okay? I think some of the two-wheeler guys, that have, guys and girls, have built, those two-wheelers. I think they're overkill for some of the customers. Do they understand it? Do they really use it? Do they? The other problem, and I'm going to keep saying, I'm going to come back to reality. Can a mechanic in a tier 2, 3, 4 city fix that technology? Probably not. And if something goes wrong and somebody monkeys around with that system, that pretty much ruins everything. So I think, I'm talking to you very valid as a country like India or Africa, many, I just came back from West Africa. I was in Mali. I mean, I saw some technology there. They don't even understand it, right? And the problem is if it gets worse, if something goes wrong, then the whole system goes bad. So that's one thing. But I do believe, in tier one cities, in the passenger side, and especially in the cargo, and I'm hoping more. Anshul has been working and doing some great work in the bus sector at PMI. I think that's going to be needed. It's going to be part of it. I think it's going to help drivers. It's going to help maybe, obviously, reduce cost, which is going to bring efficiency. And all in all, we want to build a village in this, this whole ecosystem of EVs. It's not about just OEMs or, battery makers. It's the likes of PTC, it's the likes of, other software developers, Bosch is doing. So it's a combination of everybody. And I think, India in technology is moving ahead. I don't think we can compare ourselves to China. I mean, there are miles and miles ahead, whether people like it or not. We can learn from that. But I think this is going to be part of the journey for everybody in the future as we move on.
Mr. Udayan Shrestha, I would like to ask you this question that, when products are consumer oriented, when you have to buy the features, when you want to give those features, right now the question often is whether to build it yourself or to buy it from the market. Uday, what has been your approach till now?
Look, I think in this journey, you can't build everything yourself. I mean, I'd rather have, and I'm not. You haven't paid me to sponsor, but PTC, right? We work with PTC. I think the skills that they have, the years of experience they have, the people that they have. For me, people are most important. It is going to be very difficult for me to invest that money, to learn with the technology, to keep up, and that experience of customers, people, and that whole 9 yards. So I prefer aligning forces with somebody that has that skill. Now, I have to have some people in my team who understand the language a PTC speaks, right? So I think it's important, but I would rather prefer building it outside. And technology changes so fast. I mean, today, we've got so much going on in terms of technology. So if you build something, you spend all of that money, you hire all of those people, I think it's more efficient to outsource it. Different people might think differently. Tesla has had a different move. They do everything in-house.
But they say that they are a software company which makes a car.
That's right. I'm not a software company. Yeah. We are building vehicles for the masses. I want to be bringing a change to this country and internationally in third world countries. So for me, I think I'd rather use that. But different people might have different, but that's my preference.
Shrestha, your view.
For us at Simple, it's always a decision in between buy and build. So we look at if it is giving us significant advantage in terms of the value proposition that the feature or probably some hardware, something that brings it to the table, and also the kind of value proposition that I can transfer it to the customers. And in terms of, at the end of the day, any business is all about profitability, right? So the kind of margins or the kind of impact that it will bring to my margins at the end of the day for my operations is something that we look at. So, of course, there's a lot of things. For example, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So, for example, tires, right?
Of course.
Ford tried doing it probably in the early days. They set up a manufacturing facility in Africa somewhere where they were trying to make their own rubber and all of that. But today, it's all about understanding the kind of value proposition that feature or that particular product is bringing to your table, and then decide what needs to be done, probably build or buy it from somebody else. So that's the kind of thing that we look at. So it's always a decision for us to compare, to do a thorough analysis, and then probably decide what we want to do.
Mr. Kapoor, how do you approach build versus buy debate?
I would agree with both these gentlemen that what they have been talking, that you can't build everything yourself. I would take analogy to another approach. Similar, but another way. So just look at today, in today's world of computing and so-called software, I'm trying to use that, but it will also be applicable to the hardware also. That how you bring modularity. And when I talk about modularity, it's not about size and scale, it is also about features. Like, for example, everybody has been talking about PTC. So when we started doing a lot of CAD/CAM stuff almost 20, 25 years back, we were having different modules. And one module, so something was structural engineering from Nastran or Patran or ANSYS. That would be a plugin on the stand-up platform, right? So what everybody does now is look at what is happening in mobility space. In mobile space or in the telecom space, on a particular device, you have got 30 apps. It's an app-driven world. You pay for it for every click and you get it. So what do? You create a configurable platform. Easy to configure. It does not spoil the whole architecture. Keeps it still agnostic and safe. But create a scalable. Now, if a young kid comes, sitting somewhere in Tamil Nadu, and he comes with a utility which is going to be really great, suppose it helps in healthcare, it helps in transportation model, or it helps in goods carry, or it connects to the platform, and it really creates a very competitive platform, and the vehicle is actually plugged into it. It means a guy who is really driving a vehicle or cargo vehicle or a bus or anything, depending on the case, he can use the utility and create a value for himself. So every click, so for example, a two-wheeler guy, right? So we got Porter now. Now there's a Porter platform. But now just imagine if you're auto plugged into Porter, I'm just throwing a number, because everything is platform.
Yeah.
So if you're into Porter, you just get a plug-in, it walks in. A commercial vehicle would go into Porter, right? So I'm just trying to pick some of the, so if we are there, we would say, base platform we control, because it has something to do with security, safety, cyber, performance, and my fundamental architecture. And I create a very separate space, which is totally keeping my vehicle safe, but as a product utility, which is plug in.
Raj, how can you, a company like you, help companies keep their costs in check and also keep them future ready?
Yeah, with software-defined vehicle, you are future ready because your vehicle appreciates over time. It is quite contrary to the way the traditional vehicle was at its best when it left the showroom or the factory, right? So it evolves, it learns user behavior, etc. Now, costs in check. I think all these digital initiatives and everything that the world is doing typically is only sustainable until costs are really coming down, right? And there is value for what they're doing, right? What software brings is absolute visibility to the entire life cycle of how a product is developed, how a product is manufactured, how it's maintained, and even to the driver's behavior for the manufacturer, right? Now, a lot of commercial vehicle initiatives are driven down by the government to monitor good driver behavior and to incentivize drivers to be actually better drivers on the highway because of the number of accidents, the incidents, and so on, right? So costs are going to come down overall for the ecosystem. I think the point that Uday was making, and he typically makes about the larger ecosystem and the country and the world actually getting better with all of these initiatives, is actually very true in terms of making sure that when there is more visibility to things, and that's what it does. I think, Arun, you were making the point about breaking down silos within an organization. There's always silos between different departments, etc. Now, what does software bring, or what does PLM, ALM, etc. bring, is better collaboration, people working towards a common mission with clarity, right? Identifying those inefficiencies itself is going to bring up a lot of cost efficiencies. So that's the way that we think about it. There's a higher purpose than beyond just making your car filled with software. there is a higher purpose of making sure that everyone is collaborating and innovating better.
Uh, Dr. Achal, wanted to check with you about your view on India's preparedness and competitiveness in global market.
So, again, for me, the first market I have to be competitive is India itself. So India, especially in the commercial vehicle and bus segment, is such a big market. And in terms of EVs, we are at a 4-5% penetration of that, right? So for me, if I've solved the India question, I am globally competitive. I'm pretty confident of that.
Yeah.
So what we in our organization have worked very hard in the last few years is to become more competitive in India first. So, and we are a Swadeshi company who's trying to solve and get Swadeshi answers.
Okay.
And the products that we focus on are such that we are going to be first solving for the India growth story. So just to give you an example, in the electric bus segment, or in the bus segment, we had the first sort of buses that got an answer were the state-run buses, where all of us were working on, and we had an answer. It's become an economically viable product, and as for any EVs, the TCO worked out for that. The next problem in our hand was the second biggest segment of buses in the country, which is the school buses. Every year, about 30 to 50,000 school buses are sold in this country. And the number of electric school buses in this country, which are not a meaningful number yet, or nobody's thought about it. Now, the total cost of ownership or the economics of a school bus are entirely different than of an STU bus or a bus that runs every day, right? Because school buses run only 2 or 3 hours a day, and we have so many holidays in the year. So for us to become competitive and have, to make a difference was to solve the school bus problem. And that is what we've solved for. And that is where we've launched a school bus that's only almost 20-25% more expensive than your traditional diesel school bus. And that is the competitiveness we've been working on, and that is where we feel we as an organization felt was a more important problem to solve for than become, say, globally competitive. And I still strongly believe that if you're competitive in India, you are definitely competitive elsewhere.
That's true.
So, that is the ethos that drove us, that I want to be able to have as many buses sold in India, be electric or a more sustainable source. And school bus was a segment that we thought, is missing. And that is what we want to solve for. And we worked very hard to solve that.
Yeah.
So now the school bus being only 20% more expensive than an ICE bus is, for me, a solution that would really work.
True. That's a good way of looking at it, solve our own problems, and then we will anyway become competitive. Uday, I want your views on Indian automobile manufacturing industry being ready for global competition, and what is it that we need to do? Because at least in passenger vehicle segment, be it two-wheeler or four-wheeler, China, as we all know very clearly, has gone far ahead. You also mentioned that. So now, how do we bridge that gap, and where can software help us in doing that?
I think, again, we say different horses for different courses. I think much, much more global. I think, there's nothing wrong. I think Anshul ma'am is talking about being Swadeshi. I think that's extremely important. You're seeing bus manufacturers from India right now who are playing on a global scene. I mean, I've been watching global bus manufacturers. Some of the people that are very significant in India are playing right now in the international markets, in many markets. And I'd say, JBM has been out there playing in all international markets in the buses. You're seeing EV companies from India compete in international markets, whether it's in two-wheelers or three-wheelers or four-wheelers. I think for us, the automotive industry today, the EV industry has given a chance for us to play in the international market. India is, again, moving in the right direction. I would hope, there would be more interaction. I don't want free handouts from the government, but I think there has to be a little bit more. There was a great push initially on PMI. I mean, Fame 1, Fame 2, and now PMI. But I think that momentum has been lost. I think there's more momentum on the buses and the trucks.
Yeah.
The government realizes that. That's for the betterment of the country, and I'm all about putting, making India great again. We don't just leave Mr. Trump to make America great again. We have an opportunity to really, really. India was always great, so I should reach it. We don't need to make it great again.
Greater.
But I would say that I think software is extremely important. I think that I really don't want the Sundar Pichais and the Satya Nadellas to go to the US. I think we have an opportunity right here, right now, in this country, to build, technology, software for the world. We've got the equity market, which is doing, maybe this year's not been doing that great, but overall has been doing very well. And I think that provides capital to startups, to companies that are doing, whether it's in the SMEs or on the big board. So I am very, very, excited to be part of this journey in this country. And I think we've got, PTC's chairman, I think, is Indian. I think so. It tells me that we have an opportunity from this country to be a major exporter in the software space, develop it. But I also want India to be taken to the next step. And I think, honestly, for me, it's not those people living in billion-dollar homes. It's all of those people, the billion-plus people that are in the front lines, who we need to move up. I don't want this country to just be a few billionaires owning the country. It has to be, you have to lift all of these people up. And how does software help them? How does it make a better life for them? How do we improve this country? I'm not standing for political office. I'm just very passionate about making India better. And so I've left my home in Switzerland to come and live in this great quality of air in Delhi that goes to, whatever. So I think we need to change that. And I think we have an opportunity to make this country a leader in this space.
Raj, how do you think software can actually solve some of the issues that Uday has raised, which means making our manufacturing more competitive, more futuristic, and also bring a meaningful change in the whole manufacturing and automobile industry?
Yeah, some of the examples of making sure that manufacturing, that's the key point that you're talking about, is a lot of downtime in the factories happens because of the fact that you're not able to predict when a machine is going to fail, when an asset is going to fail, right? One of the very basic things that software analytics, Gen AI can do is make sure that you predictively maintain the machines on the floor and avoid its failure, prevent its failure even before it happens. Okay, so that's a very, very low-hanging fruit, as they say. But beyond that, there's a lot of inefficiencies on the factory. Automation, factory automation, the concept of dark factory is all to do with, it's the equivalent of autonomous cars on the road.
Yeah.
The dark factory, where machines talk to each other. They perform everything. The assembly line is integrated. The output is just collected at the end of the line. Now, all of this is powered by software. It couldn't have been done any other way apart from software. Now, one of the things which is also very relevant in this context is the point of sustainability. Of course, with electric vehicles and so on.
And also globally competitive. Sustainability and also making the
Yes,
Indian
making
manufacturing
it
globally competitive.
Exactly. Now, we're all working towards that to make sure that the earth is greener than it ever was and we leave a better future for the next generations. Now, how do you make sure that efficiencies are brought out and solved for? And how do you decrease the usage of electricity, water, etc.? on the factory. It's all done with software. It's all done with the analytics that goes into it. So there's a common goal overall to make it greener. The electric vehicle companies are doing a lot in that direction already by the very nature, and software is going to enhance and take that to the next level.
All right, so clearly software-defined vehicles and software-defined industry. It's changing the way the businesses make their plans, how vehicles get designed, and how do they get executed, down to how the customer experiences those vehicles. So SDV definitely are shaping the Indian automobile manufacturing. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us today and taking time out and talking to us. Thanks a lot for taking time out tonight. Thank you.